Technology is here to stay. Technology is driving the new way of doing things, and is growing various economies. And one thing is, if you're not part of this wave, if you're a business person, your business tends to lose out on the vast value that technology brings. I think the time is now for us to truly take, our rightful place on the global map in terms of leading and charging the way in terms of technology and its use case in driving economies on the continent. Technology is here to stay. And we believe that a focus around smart technology and its different use case can drive social and economical change on the continent, in South Africa and the continent as a whole. And I think what's required is young people, tech enthusiasts that believe in the power of technology and are able to take up the challenge to leverage technology for good and leverage technology for change, and actually give us our rightful place on the global map when it comes to technology and driving growth through technology.
The Groundbreakers, Mondays to Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. on TUT FM.
Let me welcome all and sundry, those who are watching on YouTube and those who are listening to us on www.tutfm96.2.co.za. You are also listening to us on 96.2 from in and around Pretoria. The guests are already here. I'll break it down to you in a moment in terms of who the guests are. Firstly, we do have the CEO of Adanian Labs, that's Cedric Ngende, who's with us here, and also co-founder and chief technology officer Bendon Murgor, both of them in studio with us today. So before I break down the bio for you, let me start by welcoming the CEO. I think that's where you start first when you knock into somebody's space. Cedric Ngende, thank you, Ngende. Thank you so much for making time for us here and spending the time with us. I trust this is going to be a very enlightening conversation. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. Just by way of correction, I look after the South African business.
Okay.
But thank you very much for having us.
And the co-founder as well as chief technology officer, Bendon Murgor. We've had a very brief conversation. It's a very interesting story that he has for us. Bendon, thank you so much as well for being part of this conversation. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having us today.
Let me start by telling you briefly, though, who Bendon is. He's a man worth his weight in gold, safe to say. Senior software engineer with 16 plus years experience architecturing and building tech solutions for Pan-African clients, certifications in CCNA and other complicated, the GCIH, with extensive experience in gaming technologies, USSD development, mobile money integrations, blockchain programming, mobile application system security, and system security. He's a tech entrepreneur. He's with us here. It's a very, very loaded. I mean, it doesn't say much in details, but enough though to give a sense of the journey that you have traveled in that space. I'm interested in that 16 years. We'll get to you in a moment regarding that. And Cedric Ngende is himself a man of substance. He's a senior accomplished management professional with over 20 years working in the financial service industry across sub-Saharan Africa, obtained a proven track record and expertise in finance, sales, product development, business development, and general management. Well, he's well-traveled also. But one of his work experience is that he managed the group and in-country health administration company in each country of operation, ensuring sound underwriting and risk management practices, robust claims process, and client-centric membership operation coupled with value-adding assistance services. So that's a difficult job already, you can tell. Let's get to the crux of the matter now. Guys, let's start with you, Cedric. 20 years of experience into that space. Earlier on, in fact, I was talking to Bendon and saying you would have seen the changes throughout your stay 2 decades strong. The changes in terms of how technology has gripped the world and how it has changed how we consume things, also how we look at technology broadly. Firstly, tell us about your fascination with that space, that technological space, and what your experiences has been with the changes that we've seen throughout the years.
Thank you. I think that's a very important question. I think my career spans across multiple sectors. And I think one of the key aspects of that journey has been the convergence of the value that technology plays in each sector,
Yeah.
and how does it unlock the ability for growth, revenue generation, and overall profitability. And as a key person who across my career have focused around how to drive business growth, technology, and we've seen an evolution of technology up to the state where right now, there are key buzzwords out there in the market, such as blockchain, such as AI, and these are cutting edge, technologies that are spearheading growth in multiple sectors, including in Africa. But I think where we're seeing is that one, different use cases of technology and the emergence of smart technology. But the downside about it is that, Africa is not necessarily a strong either contributor in this particular, wave. And I believe that, the time for us is now. Technology is here to stay. Technology is driving the new way of doing things, and is growing various economies. And one thing is, if you're not part of this wave, if you're a business person, your business tends to lose out on the vast value that technology brings.
16 years on your part also, Bendon, is no child's play. You would have seen some critical development. You would know the intersections where the journey turned from right to left in the time that you've been in that particular space. What has been your experience in that particular space, and your experience around your journey in that space as well?
That's a very interesting question. My experience has been a tough one, given the fact that we didn't have the access to technology as it is now.
Yeah.
We didn't have computers like laptops, right? We didn't have internet. So how we started is that we were fighting for the few or the available computer systems and resources to learn from.
Yeah.
And with that, it created the urge, it created the interest, it drove us to innovate within the small available resources at that time. But then, as time went along, things changed, and people started embracing, new technologies, and new computers which are accessible came in.
Yeah.
Now that's how laptops came in. Government started, doing e-government services, where now, like the place I come from, Kenya. The computer studies and computer technology education, for example, was rolled out in almost everywhere. And with that, people started embracing, and it now gave us the opportunity now to practice the actual craft easily. But then from on the side of studying, because I studied our computer science, the university I was in, for example, gave us the opportunity to use the computer labs which existed in the university to innovate and learn deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
But then we drove ourselves to really, at that time, given that the resources were not available as is now.
Yeah. So that 20 years, and between the two of you, I'm counting 36 years of solid experience combined together to bring to birth the company that you have now. Let's talk your company and when it started. I'll fire that question to you, CEO, in terms of when that company started and the circumstances under which it had to start.
So maybe I'll defer to Bendon and then I'll add on to it.
All right, Bendon, the CEO is handing that question over to you. You are also a co-founder.
Yes, thank you. Adanian Labs Global started in 2019, ending, but largely beginning of 2020 is when actually we started operating. But then it was amidst the COVID period.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And we started it out of a need where we had other technology businesses and we thought we need to build capacity for our own businesses. And that gave birth to Adanian Labs to try and house the businesses we were, at that time running with my other co-founders.
Yeah.
And that's how Adanian Labs was born. But then over time, it's grown. From 2020, now we are in 2024. We are in almost 10 countries in Africa.
Sure. Yeah. So you've been able to branch off to other countries with much success. We'll get to that at a later stage. And I'm sure, CEO, I did mention right at the top of our conversation that it's important for me to draw from and tap into your brain as well, draw from your understanding around the technological space. I know at the later stage you'll be talking about the value of distributed ledger technology to students, which is also part of the technological journey and the transformation that we are talking about. So who are you working with and your collaborations? Are you at all working with any institutions of higher learning at all?
Thank you for that. So I think our partnership approach is very vast. I think we've partnered with numerous institutions. I think from a learning standpoint, we always open to partner with learning institutions. Our sense is that we believe in availing, technology and access to technology from a capacity building, whether you're a student in university or whether you're, someone from the general community. I think the ethos of our business is how do we make access to technology a little bit easier, demystify the concept of what technology is, especially smart technology. How do we demystify that and break it down in simpler form where the individual can consume it, but most importantly, has the ability to truly leverage technology to impact not just their daily livelihoods, but the communities where they operate in. So our partnership model is broader than learning institution. It cuts across communities, it cuts across various partnership model, and at the end of the day, what we're trying to achieve is how do we power various sectors, informal, formal, to be able to leverage the true potential of smart technology.
Let me get to you, Bendon. I mean, in the years that you guys have been operating, do you offer internships to either students? Are there internships opportunities within your company?
Yes, that's a good question, actually. Yeah, we do offer annually. We take in interns within our where we are present in, the countries we are in. And even here in Johannesburg, we even now calling for interns to join in.
Even as we speak?
Yes.
All right, so we'll get those details. And just maybe briefly give us a sense of which interns you are looking, what opportunities are available as we speak.
The immediate one is we're looking for full stack developers within the Python stack, any Python stack. We're looking for interns within the AI, machine learning, and data science space.
Yeah.
And we're looking for front-end engineers or front-end developers.
Yeah.
So if you have some, you can refer to us.
CEO, let me ask this to you, and I'm asking this question for somebody who might be at home. As you said, you're not directly looking at students alone. You're thinking of somebody who's out there as a community member as well. For somebody who might be at school, and for a parent who's listening, perhaps trying to navigate her child towards the space you are in now, where do I focus in? I know you studied, in fact, you told us you studied at VET. Maybe one would want to look as well at what you had to study and how you had to position yourself in terms of what you studied perhaps at matric, and what choices one can make in terms of courses or subject at school. How do I align myself in line with the technological space from a from a subject choice perspective?
Well, I think I'm going to respond it from my experience, my perspective, and I think I'll allow also Bendon to come in.
Sure.
I'm an accountant. I studied accountancy.
Okay.
But I think early on, I developed a knack for technology in the sense that I felt that technology can provide a true value in terms of how do we change the way we operate, either as business leaders or as entrepreneurs or as policymakers.
Yeah.
I believe technology has a space in all spectrums, whether it's public sector or private sector. So I think there's been a lot of self-study in terms of that space. Obviously, from an Adanian perspective, I'm a proud product of the Adanian Academy. So obviously, within our own business, understanding the role of AI, understanding blockchain, understanding some of the smart technology. But I think for me, before Bendon comes in, I think the critical aspect for any technology students to say, what are the current challenges that they see in their communities, in their environment, in the country, on the continent, around the world, and what possible solutions in their minds they believe can actually address those challenges, and then work backwards to say, what are the core competencies do I require to be able to be a problem solver? And how do I do that leveraging technology? And for me, coming outside the technology learning space, being an accountant, for example, that ethos actually allowed me to focus on key areas that I would need to, empower myself to be able to navigate through that journey. And maybe I think Bendon will be able to provide a little bit more color specifically around, how do you choose the respective subjects and what is relevant out there? Because I believe whilst learning is important, we need to be able to navigate and direct, our students in the next generation to learn relevant technology. And maybe Bendon will be able to shed color on that.
Bendon, of course, the founder and chief technology officer, part and parcel of the conversation here. Bendon, already the question is on your table if you may want to add.
I'll just give an example of two gentlemen. The one is called Ronnie Cheng, and another one is Norman. Norman did law and graduated in law, but he is among the best user UX designers in Kenya.
Yeah.
And Ronnie, he was a chef. He did culinary arts, but he branched off to software engineering. Right now, he works at World Food Program after he passed through Adanian Labs.
Yeah.
As a mobile app developer, I think the World Food Program app is one of the team members who developed that application. So that shows you actually technology is not for just people who've studied in college things related to technology.
Yeah.
It's something someone can decide and say, I want to branch into technology related, course or rather training. Yeah.
Earlier on, you touched on the opportunities that are available, and I might have to track back slightly to that in terms of how people access those opportunities. How do they get hold of you to be able to make use of the opportunities available?
For example, we run hackathons over time at Adanian Labs, and these hackathons give an opportunity to these young people to showcase their tech expertise,
Right.
even if it's at a novice, level. But it gives an opportunity where a community is with you to understand what is this you know already, right?
Yeah.
And even to get peers who are in the same space so that you grow together. But in these community events and activities, there are recruiters who normally come around scouting, right? From even when people are still in university, and
Yeah.
and those opportunities are given out to those students.
Yeah.
So hackathons is one of them. Two, we have our website. We normally post out internship opportunities. We
And your
post out
website is?
jobs. Yeah, our website is adanianlabs.io. They can keep checking. And some of the opportunities and vacancies are posted there. And also, we have the gig world, right, where freelancers can sign up to get tech jobs. There are a lot more than what even you know. Yeah.
And I think just to add on to it, sorry to interrupt there.
sure.
We also as a business, we've understood that we need to grow knowledge around these smart technologies and just do a little bit more from a capacity building standpoint. I mean, we've trained over 25,000 young people in a space of 36 months across multiple countries.
Yeah.
In South Africa alone, I think we've trained about 2,000 young people from different diverse environments. And the idea, once again, is to demystify what technology is, but most importantly, to be able to curate in an environment where students are able to learn the true value of technology and how it translates into growth, into wealth, into empowerment, into solutions.
Sure.
And I think, once again, we run different types of capacity building programs, and students or anybody else who is a tech enthusiast can access those opportunities through our websites and our socials and in different platforms that we are in.
Before I move to DTL and what that is, because this is quite fascinating, appears to be something new. Let me get to you, CEO, with regard to this particular question. You've said you've been across the country and the continent training multitudes of people, which places you in a better position than to can understand how things have changed over times and where we are in comparison as Africa to our counterparts. You seem to suggest in your introduction that in fact we are lagging behind and a number of things are poor with our continent in terms of accessing technology. Where are we in comparison with our international counterparts?
Well, I think there's two things. I don't believe, so there's two aspects to that.
Sure.
I don't believe that we are necessarily poor. I think there's a lot more work that we need to do. But most importantly, we have a young population. I think in 2034 will be the youngest population in terms of from a continent standpoint.
Yeah.
We're growing economy from a continent standpoint, and I think all roads are converging to the continent. And this is a great opportunity for us to leverage technology once again to be able to truly leverage the landscape that we have. One, the young population, the growth prospects on the continent, so on and so forth. I don't believe as a continent we truly have leveraged, the real value of technology globally. Yeah. I think the fourth industrial revolution has come. Some people may say it's gone. But I believe, Africa, we've lagged behind. And I think the time is now for us to truly take, our rightful place on the global map in terms of leading and charging the way in terms of technology and its use case in driving economies on the continent.
Cedric is, of course, the CEO. He's joining us on the table here. And of course, we also have Bendon, who's part and parcel of the conversation. You are watching and listening to Plug a Graduate. It's perhaps a time for us to take the news. And when we return, of course, we'll continue with the conversation. We are talking the value of distributed ledger technologies to students. So it's a conversation you have to listen in. It's news time. It's just after 8. We're into the last hour. And if you wanted to keep in touch with us, you know exactly what to do. You send us a WhatsApp if you want to ask any question to the two men who are with us here. On 0123829257. I do have the co-founder and chief technology officer, Bendon Murgor, as well as the CEO himself. Tell you in a moment who that is. And we are discussing very important issue, the value of distributed ledger technology to students. Many of us might not even know what distributed ledger technology is, but the two gentlemen in studio have enough information then to serve us notice in terms of that. So, Cedric, let me get to you and start right there, because we've laid enough foundation to get an understanding of your passion in that space, your experience, and some of the changes that you have seen. Let's now get to DLT. What exactly is this? That is the distributed ledger technology.
Well, thank you very much. I think I'll talk around the program itself.
Yeah.
I'll defer to my CTO to talk the technicalities of it.
Sure.
Then I'll come back around the program. Bendon?
Thank you. Distributed ledger technology is a decentralized way of doing things in technology, where there's no one owner of a piece of technology.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting technology where, take for example, if you own a car, 10 people own that car. Like if you're driving a car, think in a way that a steering belongs to someone else, the tires belong to someone else, the headlamps, the body, the chassis belongs to someone else. So in essence, distributed ledger technology is a technology whereby blocks of data are put together to form a meaningful information for purposes of security. Cannot be changed. If it needs to be changed, that means, or it needs to be updated, another data layer is written on top of that technology. Basically, in layman's language, is that it's a block of data written on top of each other to preserve its authenticity. To ascertain that someone has not removed any part of that piece of information. So mainly it's used for tokens. It's used for crypto. I think crypto. It's used for smart contracts, like when you do contracts, right? People tend to play around and run away. So distributed ledger technology also powers smart contracts, and also it's called decentralized applications. There are decentralized applications which are built, on DLT, and then of course it powers many other technologies around what do you call crypto coins, smart buildings, like if you have data going through maybe your smart meters, you can still push that data into the distributed ledger technology. So no one owns that piece of technology. It's owned globally by everyone, and the interesting part is that you can never change, you can never delete.
Is that what you mean by decentralized application, or can you break it down for us? What exactly does that mean?
All right. Decentralized applications is where different applications perform tasks. It can be financial applications, for example.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could be having your own application. I have my own application, but we doing the same thing of financial transaction, right? Where I don't have to be regulated in essence that, I don't have to be licensed to transfer to you, that piece of information, which is in form of, say, a financial transaction, right? And it can sit anywhere. Anyone can provide you a server or a space to put your application, right?
Yeah.
And performs or carries out an activity anywhere in the world. That's why we're saying it's decentralized.
Right.
Yeah.
How does it work? Sissy, unless you wanted to add something in relation to what Bendon had to say, because I understand you are cut from the same cloth. If you feel that he may have missed something of importance in terms of information, you may please want to add on that. In the absence of that, of course, is there anything at all?
No, absolutely. I think the DLT is really within the spectrum of the Web3 environment, where as Bendon mentioned, blockchain is a component, decentralized ledger technology is a component, but from a use case perspective, we're seeing it transforming different industries, from your healthcare environment around record keeping, to your mining environment around track and tracing, to logistics around supply chain management, leveraging the technology, to banking around payments, customer service, to insurance around underwriting. So these are technologies that global multinationals, local multinationals are, applying to drive business growth and efficiency within their environment. And I think from a skills perspective, we're seeing a gap in the market around the knowledge around it. We're seeing that the Web3 environment has a growth component to it, and specifically around the continent. And I think that's one of the key reasons why we believe that knowledge around this particular technology allows, young people to be more marketable. It supports, a culture of driving new technologies, upskilling, and most importantly, working on technologies that are relevant in the market today. I think that's one of the key aspects that I wanted to add. Bendon mentioned the technology piece. I think my contribution is one more around the use case and the value that we're seeing around the technology across multiple sectors. Thank you.
It's a Wednesday, it's Plug a Graduate. Remember what we do here every Wednesday is that we bring, as I always say, the top of the tree. As you had Bendon, 16 years plus of experience into the space. Cedric, 20 years of experience into that space as well. As I said, in combination, they are sitting here with 36 years solid of technological experience. It doesn't get better than that to pick their brain in terms of understanding how that particular space works. If you are that individual in that space and showing any iota of interest, it's okay to send us a WhatsApp on 0123829257. Ask those particular questions. Let me get to you. How do students then get to use this particular technology?
An interesting question. I believe in the university, for example, there are meal cards, or food stamps. I don't know. I don't know how you call it here.
Yeah.
Distributed ledger technology coming in form of financial token. These students can have it loaded on their, smart card.
Yeah.
Right. And then value can be utilized across any any section of the university. It could be library, it could be the cafeteria, it could be transport or taxi, you understand? Or even in the clinic or the dispensary. The beauty about this use case is that you can create pockets of specific token value for the student not to utilize or misuse a value for, let's say, food. So his food value will stay for the whole semester, for example, but his taxi, maybe he's used 10 times and then he has finished or exhausted. But because you've created a pocket or a token around the food, you are sure that this person will have food the entire semester.
And just to add on to that, I mean, Bendon mentioned from a practical use case in terms of how students on campus can leverage this technology. But from a learning perspective, I think that what this technology does, it makes students a little bit more marketable. I know that as TUT, you're promoting work integrated learning concepts.
Sure.
And I think programs such as this particular program we're driving actually promotes that. How do students have skills that are actually relevant in the market, where industries are driving their uses of these technologies across, their product range, service range, or even the operations and economies where they operate in. So I think two value to student: one, a little bit more marketable, relevant skills in terms of what the market is looking for, but also it gives them the opportunity to leverage this technology, once again, to Bender's point, to solve real life issues, whether it's within the campus environment or whether it's within a community environment or whatever the case may be, because this technology allows, one to develop solutions that are, one, smart, two, safe. And the other component is that it just, it drives the applicability of these solutions across multiple markets, leveraging this technology. So I thought I'll add that point as well.
And maybe I'll hold it there in terms of that point, because it's a very, very important point. You've added what TUT is doing here with work integrated learning. Tell me how that technology ease things in that space, how it helps with the programs that you've mentioned already available.
Well, I think the way it works or aligns to, the work integrated learning concept is that, our programs give students or alumni practical experience around building application and solutions, leveraging this technology. So there's two aspects. The first aspect is we are seeing a huge uptake for multinationals, corporates, policymakers, governments around, different types of blockchain protocols, technologies that allows, security, transparency, traceability in the applications of these corporates. But one of the key things we're seeing is that from a talent perspective, they're seeing a gap in terms of actual talent that are able to provide solutions and maintain these solutions that sits on smart technology. So from a work integrated learning perspective, what we're saying is, how do we provide current students and alumni with relevant industry skills whilst they're either studying or even if they're graduated, that matches the demand that sits in the market around talent that are able to, drive solutions that sits in this technology. So I think that's where we see the convergence.
That's a brilliant point, because it dovetails well with what TUT is doing there. I'm not surprising you are part and parcel of this. Are we seeing a better appetite for this? Do we have a better understanding of how this technology work? In other words, have people got the hang of it in terms of how they can maximally use it?
That's a very
loaded question.
I would say, for example, at Adanian Labs, we started training blockchain engineers from the year 2021, right? Because again, we saw the need. That said, the numbers are growing. The understanding of the technology is growing. But then the gap is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because again, most of these technologies are coming from outside Africa.
Yeah.
And coming towards Africa. But if we do not rest with it to create the capacity we need, then we will still lag behind in understanding and ingraining ourselves in the technology which has been innovated like this one. Yeah.
Right. Send us your questions if you do have any at all. It's 0123829257. What value? And I suppose it's a reverse of a question that I've already asked, but I want you to get a bit more deeper into that. What value can a student derive from the use of a technology like this?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I think not just the technology, but let's answer it from what value they derive from a program like this.
Sure.
And I think the value is threefold. One, marketability. I think we need to be able to provide, our students, our alumni, our people with access to, knowledge around smart technology that is relevant in the industry, so that we as a people, whether it's within, the borders of South Africa or beyond on the continent, can truly participate in this technology revolution that is, globally making its impact.
Yeah.
So that's the one aspect, marketability. The second aspect is that we have a lot of students who are entrepreneur. Knowledge and participation in this program allows them to go through a particular track that combines theoretical knowledge and applicable knowledge and actual, through hackathon, practical work, integrated experience, so that, once again, they're able to build technologies that, and solutions that add value to whatever endeavors that they're looking at. And the third aspect is, the values that they become part of a community of like-minded individuals. And by creating a community of either blockchain engineers or experts in, distributed ledger technology, we're able to create a little bit more capacity in the country so that we can meet and be able to service the demand that sits out there in terms of capacity.
All right. If, of course, you've just walked in, we are sitting here with Cedric Ngende, who is the CEO of Adanian Labs, as well as the co-founder and chief technology officer, Bendon Murgor, who are joining us in studio today. And of course, we are discussing the value of distributed ledger technology on students. Let's take a very quick turn, and then when we come back, we continue with the conversation. This is Plug, a graduate on TUTFM. Welcome back from a very quick break. We are into the last hour of the conversation, and we are, of course, talking the value of distributed ledger technology to students. It's not a fancy topic to discuss, of course, but very, very informative indeed. We do have our founder and chief technology officer, Bendon Murgor, who's in studio. It's a makeshift studio with us here, and of course Cedric Ngende, who's the CEO of Adanian Labs, and they are with us here. Let me get to you, Bendon. We understand this is a seminar. Give us a bit more meat around that particular seminar, when it's going to be happening, and what is the point of discussing there?
Maybe I'll take that question.
Please do.
So I think in terms of our alignment with TUT, we'll be hosting and participating in a webinar towards the end of this month. The idea around the webinar is really to introduce, the program itself, the different values around the program, but also to talk around the technology, demystifying the technology. Because I believe when people hear aspects of blockchain, the first thing they think about is crypto. And I think we're not looking at the crypto side, but we're looking more on how the technology adds value across multiple industries.
Sure.
So, we're going to talk about what is Web3, the advent of Web3 and the different use cases and opportunities within that industry and that environment, the global trends around Web3, and most importantly, why participating in this program, can equip our alumni, our students, with added skills to be a little bit more relevant in different industries and endeavors. So I think it's really an intro to the program and the value. But also it's noteworthy to mention that whilst this impacts and provides, an impact around capacity building, participants will participate in a hackathon that allows them, not only to gain knowledge, but the top winning teams will gain prizes, but also have the ability to participate in an entrepreneur exchange program that will be based in Switzerland with our partners globally. So not only do they get experience with global trends, but the opportunity to physically participate and just kind of be able to get access to global practice physically abroad. So I think that's also an important component to add on to it.
And of course, to be certified, right?
Absolutely. I think that's the most important thing. We're looking at how do we certify our participants to be, certified engineers around the Hedera protocol with an emphasis around distributable ledger technologies, which has its applicability in various enterprise solutions across multiple industries. So that's the most important component. And I believe we are lacking behind in terms of certified blockchain engineers. And I think this can be an important component to power our students to be a little bit more marketable. And, it adds a little bit more value to the work integrated learning concept.
And of course, one of the questions, let me direct this to you. In addition to what you've just said, CEO, is when is this webinar happening? The exact date and maybe the time?
I think what has been aligned with our esteemed colleagues from TUT, the date has been aligned for the 31st, I believe. But I think the dates will be fine-tuned and communicated through the different TUT channels. My understanding is on the 31st, but I think it will be communicated across multiple platforms.
Can check out our social media platforms for more information around that. Check that as regularly as you can. I mean, Bendon, earlier on you were saying, talking to us about how students can make maximum or capital use of the technology that you are talking about, that is a DLT. And right at the back of my mind, I was thinking, with technology, we know it's always at times susceptible to illegal activities, to all sorts of activities that we see that goes with hacking. That goes with all sorts of other mayhem that is happening. How impervious is this technology, this DLT, to this kind of illegal activities?
If we go deep in technology terms, distributed ledger technology uses what we call RSA encryption, ECDA encryption methodologies. Which might take someone almost 15 years to crack one encrypted ledger. You see, so by the time it's 15 years, you've given up. So, and again, as I mentioned earlier, this technology is written on top of other blocks, and you don't know where they are stored. So, because it's distributed, that means you'll find that one piece of information pertaining a ledger is stored in say Singapore. Another one is stored in South Africa. Another one is stored in USA, for example. So that gives that distributed nature of things. And that's why we are saying adopting this technology gives us the security of data we really look for in driving our businesses, in driving our day-to-day data storage needs within the cyber security and information security aspect. So for the students at this point, for example, verifiable credentials is a very big thing within the student setup, where if if distributed ledger technology is adopted in the university space, students get the benefit of it in terms of immutable transcripts,
Yeah.
immutable, degree marks, and things like that. So it also improves on verifiable credentials for students as they exit university, which can be shared freely, online, because no one can change it.
So by immutable, certainly you mean it cannot be changed.
Yes, sir.
All right. So what is the blockchain, DLT blockchain? Do you have an idea of what that means? And maybe you can educate us there.
So distributed ledger technology, or rather the blockchain, the hash graph protocol, right, is a technology which still, the way I had explained, which utilizes high-level encryption methodologies. The algorithms around hash graph protocol is it takes extreme compute power,
Yeah.
to encrypt, the data which goes into that protocol.
Yeah.
But then the advantage then here is that it has tools which enables users to build easily on top of it. You don't have to care much about how the encryption happens.
Yeah.
The hash graph protocol has given you the opportunity to build on top of their technology, because they have simplified. Understand? They have simplified the way you develop on it, the way you interact on it, and even the way your wallet keys are being stored, so that you don't have to scratch your head, but again get the security of data you need for your transactions or for your data needs. Yeah.
Right. Are there risks associated with this, CEO? The use of a technology like this?
Well, I think broadly, technology itself has its value.
Sure.
But obviously, if used incorrectly, obviously pose, levels of risk. And I think what's important for us as leaders in this space is when we're equipping, participants and general public around the use of these technology, I think we go at length to talk around some of the perils in terms of the misuse.
Yeah.
So, we advocate ethical use of technology, and which is a really key aspect in what we do. But as in any other endeavor, there's always risks. But we believe that this technology, as Bendon mentioned, from a technology standpoint, it's built in an environment that curbs levels of risk. But I think from an ethics standpoint, we go at length to educate participants and our partners around the correct use of technology in their spaces. I don't know if Bendon can add on to that.
Yeah.
The biggest risk with distributed ledger technology is that when you lose your secret key, you've lost your data, because you will never unlock your data. So the moment you have your secret key and you lose it, any data you've gone through that encryption, that means you will lose that data. That's the only biggest risk we have with blockchain-based distributed
Is
ledger.
there a way around ensuring that I do not lose that data? Is there anything you can...
So there are technologies now, devices which are blockchain-based. You have disks which store your secret key.
Yeah.
You have patterns and chips which, like blocks which can have letters of your secret key.
Right.
You have, our apps can store the secret key as well. Like you have authenticators, and other ways and methods of trying to recover your secret keys through rigorous identification methods, in case it was a second level key or a pass key, for example. But truth be told, when you lose your secret key, you lose everything that you had already stored.
Very unsettling news indeed. We do have questions that are coming in. And obviously, we'll start with a question from Vincent Matema, who's in WRES, and he's asking, with the internships or work that you said you are hiring, like with Python coding or Python coding, what level of experience should one have? Is there anyone, are you willing to take that one, CEO Bendon?
So the level of Python skill we want is a junior level, really. Someone who understands how to code in Python. Doesn't have to be, you've built crazy, projects within it. But as long as you can build basic applications using Python, then the internship program is suitable for you. Because also us would like someone who comes in to learn, our methodologies, to learn how we do things, not someone, that's why it's called internship. Yeah.
Anything you want to add? Unless I have to fire this question to you. Of course, it comes from Dan in Mabopane, and he's asking CEO, with the decentralized financial transaction, how do we ensure that money is real? Do you get the gist of that question? And maybe I'll repeat that for you, is that with the decentralized financial transactions, how do you ensure that the money is real? What sense are you able to make of that particular question?
That's a very technical question. I'll defer to our CTO here.
Bendon?
So in decentralized finance, we transfer value. We don't transfer cash.
All right.
Yeah.
So are you answered, Dan? I'm not sure. Maybe you can make a follow-up there in terms of wanting to understand whether the money is real. The answer is that there's actually no money here. So you cannot confirm whether there is.
So there are exchanges where now these protocols work, to ensure that the tokens are minted, to become actual fiat, to become US dollars or rand, for example. I would give Bitcoin. There are Bitcoin ATMs in South Africa now. So meaning that if you have Bitcoin, you can easily withdraw it as cash. But then in essence, if the value is within the decentralized ledger ecosystem, that means if I've moved to you one value of something, then you already have that one value. Yeah.
Right. John Maluleke is from El Nita Res and asking here, do you have opportunities for people who are still students?
Absolutely. I think, our program, the DLT Regional Africa program, is open to not only alumni, but current students. Once again, we believe in providing added capacity over and above what learners are studying, and giving them a little bit more practical experience through a simulated, worker integrated learning program, and we believe that our program supports that in a nutshell.
We are heading towards the tail end of this particular show. Steve Siema, your question is still coming up, so sit tight and listen in as far as what the answer will be from either Cedric or Bendon, both of them joining us here for a Plug a Graduate edition. Today we're talking all matters technology. Let's take another quick turn, and then when we return, we wrap up the show. From a quick break, we are, as I said, right at the tail end of the show. And off air, Cedric was raising quite a pregnant point. I think that there's something to add from there about what we've heard even on an every Wednesday basis when people are calling and saying, we are qualified, but we are not certainly able to get a job. Cedric, let me take that one to you. You've made a very, very important point earlier on as to what the driving factors around those are. The fact that you would have students who are qualified, but certainly not getting a job. It's quite a concern. What could be at the center of that?
Well, I think there's multiple factors, but I think what I want to focus on is around, providing our students with a little bit more practical, knowledge that translates into practical experience, that translate into the much needed capacity to fill in the workforce.
Right.
I think employers are specific around the type of skills they're looking for. And I think participating in programs like this, where students are getting exposed to Web3 industry and technology, and the ways the program is curated, it gives them the practical knowledge around how to build application leveraging this technology, practical experience around building the technology and solution that gives them a portfolio of evidence that showcases the capacity that they've garnered that is reinforced by the certification. So it is not just a certification for the sake of being certified, but it accompanies a body of work that a student is able to display to potential employers that can simulate practical work experience around the ability, to build and support technology.
So in essence, we often hear about how there are no jobs, and people are saying that loosely. You are arguing, in other words, that it might not necessarily be true. It could very well be that there are jobs out there, employers are out there, they want to hire people, except no one is bringing anything tangible as per the employer's request on the table.
No, that's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, we have to look at where technology is going,
right,
in the context of where our economies are going, and try to find the pockets of opportunities that exist in terms of what are the technology knowledge or experience that potential employers are looking for, bearing in mind where the economies is, bearing in mind where the industries are going, and bearing in mind where employers are, going from a organizational perspective. So I think we need to move towards adopting smart technology capacity that allows to unlock opportunity, because what is evident in the market is that the industry is going in towards the smart technology route, whether it's AI or Web3. We need to grow capacity around the knowledge of those technologies to make our student a little bit more marketable. In other words, matching where industries are going to the technologies that they will need to get themselves there with the talent that is required to support that trajectory.
Sure. And on the issue of AI, I want to pick it right there before we get to the last question from Steve Sayem. I see we have about 10 minutes left before we wrap up the show. But he has made a very, very interesting mention around artificial intelligence. And a lot of people are saying he's talking about jobs that could be created there and how technology can be used from mining to agriculture. But many people are saying AI is a threat. Do you see it as such?
Interesting question. AI is not a threat, rather an opportunity for us to actually embrace immediately.
Sure.
As I tell you right now, so far this half year, AI at almost $1 trillion has gone into AI development. Just this first half year. And Africa is just a small part of that $1 trillion. And that tells you that by the next 5 years, probably we're talking about, $20 trillion worth of, investments and business around artificial intelligence. That said, people need not to get scared that AI is going to replace their jobs. But rather, they need to align themselves with artificial intelligence so that they enhance their output, their effectiveness, their capability within the workplace, right? But then if they don't embrace it, definitely they will feel out of place, and it's not like AI will kick them out. It's themselves kicking themselves out of the place.
And I just want to add on to that. As in Adanian Labs, one of our subsidiaries is called the AI Center of Excellence. And I think one of the key focus around that business is to drive AI education, but most importantly, to drive workshops that are industry and sector specific. For example, how do farmers in the agricultural space leverage AI? AI in farming, AI in education, AI in healthcare,
Sure.
AI in finance. By that way, one, we demystify AI, but most importantly, we actually showcase the real value of AI and various AI tools that make, someone a little bit more marketable in the AI space.
Right. Another question that is final then from Steve Seyama. He's interacting with us from around Soshanguve in Block BB. Thank you so much, Steve, for spending time and learning from such an important conversation. But he's asking here, what is the main reason one should attend your webinar? I see you both want to go for it. You can. Go ahead.
Interesting. For me, coming from a software engineering field, it opens an opportunity for anyone interested to join a revolutionary program, which will give a certification that, which can work anywhere in the world. Hence, making that person employable across the globe.
Marketable as well, the CEO have said. You wanted to add something?
Absolutely. I think I will re-echo what Bendon's saying. I think, the value for someone, listening to this program and thinking about participating is that, they get skills that traditionally they wouldn't, they may not have. And that really adds to, the value that they can derive going forward. Bearing in mind that we are in the Web3 space, and we believe that, from a capacity, there's a talent gap. And I think this just, makes them a little bit more employable going forward.
This is Plug a Graduate. It has been the Groundbreakers. We are about 5 minutes away before the end of the show. Thank you so much, guys, for making time. Maybe I'll allow you to add anything right at the tail end in case you feel you may have omitted something of significance there. I'll start with you, Bendon.
Maybe I'll face there. In the next 5 years, guys, if you don't know anything to do with technology, you're left out.
Sure.
Embrace technology, train yourself in technology, read about technology so that you stay ahead of time and fit into the future.
We are living in an era where we are told everything will be dominated by robots. Don't be surprised to have a robot hosting the Groundbreakers and the guest here. You want to add anything right at the tail end, CEO, as we wrap up our conversation?
Thank you very much. I think, my contribution as my parting statement is that technology is here to stay. And we believe that a focus around smart technology and its different use case can drive social and economical change on the continent, in South Africa and the continent as a whole. And I think what's required is young people, tech enthusiasts that believe in the power of technology and are able to take up the challenge to leverage technology for good and leverage technology for change, and actually give us our rightful place on the global map when it comes to technology and driving growth through technology.
All right, guys, thank you so much for your time. I hope that where issues of technologies are concerned, you'll continue to have those applications coming in, people looking for that space, and we'll continue to spread the contact details in terms of how they get hold of you. They can always follow the TUT-FM social media platform. Guys, thank you so much for such an enlightening and a very enriching conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
We leave it here. It has been quite an empowering conversation. If you are a student into the space of technology, of course, you can keep in touch. check out our social media platforms, and we'll leave it here. Thanks to Sinosha, who's been handling issues around connectivity, Tsepiso Kogani also manning videography part as well. Thanks to Polelo and Madisa manning the news. Simply G, you've been great sport yourself. The producer of the show is Kidiboni Ivama Hapa. I am Obakeng Aubrey Moeketsi, and this has been another edition of the Groundbreakers. We are back again tomorrow on a Thursday. And remember what I always say, you don't stop because you are tired, you stop because you are done. Good night.
The Groundbreakers, Mondays to Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. on TUT FM.